coming back and sharing what we take away from family reunion. And at least for my favorite part of family reunion is this. They call it the vision speech, but it used to be called, I believe, the state of the industry. And what they give us is a lot of great slides with a lot of great data that we can come back, of course, and we share with you, so you can then do what? Share with your people, share with your clients. A lot of this data comes up, you can implement into your listing agreements, into objection handling. You have the data at your fingertips. You can go ahead and make like social media videos from it and just share something. So I guarantee you, everybody in the room as we go through is gonna get hit with some slide or something, be like, oh, I can talk about that, and you should. The goal is for you to be we call it the local economist of choice. Meaning, so anybody when they see you around town and they start asking you like, hey, Billy, how's the market? Like, you actually have some data to talk about. So anything you want to add on that, Ronnie?
No, that's great.
So we'll get started. There's like 100 and something slides here. We'll kind of touch on what we feel is important. This one, I made a brief video on it yesterday. I don't know if you guys seen it or not, but there's some huge like data in this slide alone that should make everybody in this room feel really good about yourself and feel really optimistic. So if you could see, this is home sales annually going all the way back to 1990 in millions. So in 1990, there was 3.2 million home sales. So how many did we have in 2025? 4.1 million. Who in the room was in the industry during the housing crisis of 2006, 7, 8, 9? It was like the worst time in the world, supposedly, in real estate ever. And the toughest time for agents. And how many sales did the nation have back then? 2008. 4.1 million.
Yeah.
Same number as what? Exactly. You see that?
So the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Right?
So like, well, man, we're like tough, and a lot of people in this room are having their career years and their best years. And if you can be having your best years when the market is having its worst, you should be pretty excited about where your future is heading. So that's what I wanted to share. 2026 is the projection. I can tell you since the 2018, 2019, when I joined the company, we've usually been pretty spot on. You know, barring like they didn't know what COVID was coming, and they didn't know the impact that the COVID was going to have, which was actually a positive impact on home sales and interest rates. They didn't know that. So things like that could happen. Like right now, we got a war going on. How it spreads and what comes of it, they can't predict that. But barring those items, they're very, very accurate in predicting what's going to come. So this year, they're seeing slight potential in uptick. Nothing they're going to go crazy about, but we're starting to move back in that direction. And if you look at trends like from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that 4 or 5 year span, then we started moving up. So we're 4 years in it. Hopefully we start seeing that uptick.
I totally agree with you, Mike. You know, and it's out there for us to grab. You know, and like he said to his video yesterday, 3 of the hardest years we've ever had have been probably KW's Legacy's most successful years, to be honest with you. So there's no reason why this coming year is not going to even be better for all of us.
Oh, for sure. So the one big difference between 07, 08 and the last 3 years, and why maybe we don't feel it as much as it was being felt by real estate professionals back then, is this reason right here. So back then, I'll say the average sales price in our area was like $55,000. Like, and versus today, it's $220,000, $230,000. This is nationally. So back then, nationally, the average sales price when the market tanked, like pretty much to its low, was right there. It was $166. But here it was like $55,000, $60,000 was the average sales price. And so that's why the agents who were doing the same amount of business were making a lot less money, because for the most part we get paid on volume, right? So that's why we really didn't feel it. Again, this chart, you can use it to tell so many stories. You know, I told one yesterday that I kind of made a video about, and I'm going to share with you guys after I let Ronnie kind of like talk about his thoughts with this chart.
To your point when I was walking in about when it comes to listings, right? How awesome is this slide? When this is why we have to continue to follow the trend that's happening in the country, and whatever city you're in, you should be bringing it down to that caliber of showing them the trend of going up and why there is value in buying now on the buyer side and why there's value to sell now on the seller side.
And to me, a big, what sticks out to me here is like you should own real estate. Right?
100%.
Because it goes up, and then even when it takes its dips, those should be, what type of opportunities should we be finding in here? Buying opportunities, right? And then it just comes back up. So when I seen this, I actually have a story that I want to share with you guys. When I bought my first family home, it was in Dearborn Heights, right behind Crestwood on Charlesworth. It was 1,400 square foot ranch, attached garage, for $188,000 in 1999. And I remember when I was buying it, I just started in the business, and I went and told Mike Faze, because I was at Real Estate One my first year, that, hey, what do you think about this house? He told me, oh, you're crazy, you're paying way too much. It was 188 back then. And I didn't care, like I loved it, I wanted to get it, I bought it. Fast forward to 2006, 2007, when the market crashed, that house that I had bought for $188,000 became worth $85,000. And I remember, I'm like, man, I'm like negative 100. Everybody was either losing their homes or they were or short selling their homes, and I couldn't qualify for any of that. So I felt stuck. So what did I, instead of saying stuck, what did I do? I said, you know what? I'm just going to buy a new home. I'm just going to buy a bigger home at a lower amount, and I'm going to keep this house. So the house that I'm in today, I bought it in 2010, 2,700 square feet, Golden Triangle, 48128 for $160,000. And then I moved into that home, and then I turned the other house into a rental. Now that home that was worth $85,000, fast forward to today, I still own it. It's one of my rental properties, is worth $400K. The house I bought for $160 is worth $800K. So when I see this, it's like a couple things. One, don't ever sell in a down market. If a down market comes, don't sell. Just try to hold it.
If you can afford to, not sell.
Yeah, you just try and hold it the best you can, and if anything, turn it into a rental, and then buy something else. That's what one of my big takeaways from that. And then, of course, if you can find yourself in any of these markets, try to buy as much real estate as you can. That was my big takeaway.
Yeah, no, I always encourage my team, like, invest in real estate. They see me buying houses, invest in real estate.
We knew back then, if you were working in this market like I was back then, like, man, the prices were just flying up, but there was a reason for it, an artificial reason for why the values were just flying up. It's because the banks were just giving the money out. They were stated income, stated asset, meaning you just tell the bank what you have in the bank and what you own, and they're not even going to go check. You just tell them. Just tell them how much you make. I make $1 million a year. Just write it on paper, and no problem. You make $1 million, we'll give you this much. So it was stated income, stated asset, and then it was there were these 80-20 loans. You would get a loan conventional for 80%, and then another bank would lend you the 20%. So it was 100% down, stated income, stated asset. So people just were like buying anything and everything that they could with no skin in the game.
Two mortgage companies.
So we knew, even I have stories with guys that were telling me to write up offers for them on properties for like $400,000, $450,000, and I would ask them for a $1,000 deposit, and they would tell me, I don't have it. And I would be like, then how are you going to have a $450,000 home? And she told me, just basically, don't worry about it. My lender said I can get the loan. I'd be like, okay. But you knew the writing was on the wall where they were going to lose these properties, right? You can't say that today. And so even back then, when this trend line, we were 21% over the normal trend for appreciation of real estate, there had to be a correction. Well, there was a major correction. Today, we're 7.4% over the trend line. I don't see any artificial reason why we're going to go down from that. Now, could something happen, right? War, pandemic, things like that, that shock the system to make something like that happen. It's always possible. But then, like I just said, you're going to have to make a decision at that time. If it does dip and you own real estate, can you hang on? or do you have to, sell in a down market? My advice is try to hang on as much best you can.
I agree.
Anything else? Any thoughts? You guys, this is collaborative, yeah?
I was going to ask, if you wanted to purchase another home, do you make sure that you have a certain number paid off on the other house first before moving to the next one, or not really?
No, I don't think it matters because, for me at that time, I was just looking at the value of the home. It was a paper value, right? Just like I bought it from 188, that was a real value. I committed to that number. I got a mortgage for it, and then when it dropped to 85, it was a paper value number. So I was minus 100 from when I came in, but I wasn't gonna what we call realize the 100. You only realize the 100K loss if I had sold, right? So equity in you have, it doesn't mean anything, because especially there's a lot of people who own rental real estate that intentionally try not to have equity in their portfolio. They always want to get debt against it and keep as much debt as they can on their rental portfolio, because if you go buy another home, that home you left from is probably going to become a rental property, correct? So what type of equity you have in it or not, essentially is just going to come down to your comfort level.
And what your monthly payment is, and what you're receiving on rent, and what does it cover, and if the country takes a shit and it takes 20% hit overall, can you still afford a cheaper rent to cover your payment?
Yeah, that's a great point, Ronnie, because you wouldn't want to do that with a property that you're going to be, let's say, minus 500 a month on what you can rent it out for versus what your payment is. That is, you better be making good income to be able to afford and do that. But again, you would have to do the math at that point. Are you gonna, at that point in time, I had no choice either to foreclose it or short sale it or take $100,000 loss. I wasn't gonna do either of those options.
And this knowledge that you're gaining from Mike and Ronnie, take advantage of it. Set yourself up for success now, so down the line, if something happens, you're good.
This is the annual appreciation. So you look at that time period from 6 to 11, where properties dropped 1%, then 10%, then 13%, stayed there, it stayed flat, then it dropped another 3%. So in total right there, what do we got? 20, 22, 23% decline in value in that time period. And that's nationwide. Here it was a lot more than that.
Agreed.
And then we've been on a steady climb since then. So imagine you bought real estate in 2011. Like I just told you, the home I bought for 160 today is worth 800. That's a 4x. So you start adding up all those pluses every year, 6.4, 11.5, 5.7, 6.8. That's a pretty good investment. That's a pretty good investment. So these are good charts where you can share with potential investors of why they should invest in real estate. Let me show you something. Let me show you this data. Anything, Ron?
No, you're good.
Reasons why things happen. Good chart of, we'll go to the housing bubble. We had that crash from the Great Recession, housing crisis. Pandemic actually boosted housing, but then it created the high inflation. So what did the Fed do? They raised the interest rates, so that brought it back down and held it pretty much stable. And then we've just kind of been hovering in there right now. Not a lot really happening in the last 3 years.
Pretty flat.
Total market value volume.
Sorry, Mike, to interrupt you, but back then too, didn't people know their appraiser usually would call the appraiser and say, hey,
Yeah,
make sure my house is appraised for this much, I'm buying it.
for sure.
Oh,
And that killed the market.
For sure.
closer.
And majority of the deals had type of kickbacks where sellers would just cut a check back to the buyer. So it was wild, man. It was wild. A lot of people got in trouble for those times too and went to prison from it.
Yeah, I worked at a title agency at the time.
Yeah. So this is the total market volume of all real estate sold in the country in alignment with agent count. So you see agent count has kind of steady, been ticking up. So more agents in the industry. But you'll find more and more of your top producers are taking more of the market. Inventory. We finished at 3.7 months on market. Again, what's a balanced market? 6 months. Below 6 is what?
sellers.
Seller's market. Above 6 is a buyer's market. So we're still in a seller's market. We're getting balanced, and balanced is good. Balance is good. Balance is you guys should be able to show your client a home that they love, and they should have a realistic chance of buying that home that they love and not competing against 20 other people. So we're getting there. And you guys, I worked in the balanced market from 1999 to 2005, I would say. You will actually love your job so much more, because now it becomes more enjoyable that you find them something they love and they're committed to it, and you negotiate with the listing agent and you actually get that home for them, versus you got to feel pressure to make them go over asking and waive a private and waive an appraisal contingency. Little by little, those are still out there, but little by little, it's softening up, right? Are you guys feeling that in the market? I am. I'm seeing it. You know, it depends, right? If it's the perfect home, even back then, we used to present our offers in person. You know, we didn't used to do them via email. We used to show up. So every once in a while, you'd pull to this home, and there would be like 13 realtors, cars on the block, and then you just wait for the listing agent to be like, okay, you're next, and come on in, and then you walk in and you sit with the listing agent
And the seller.
and the seller, and you present to the seller. So that's how we used to do it. So, and that was a balanced market too, but you would find those properties once in a while.
And it wasn't always the best offer. It was personality.
For sure. Back then, more than ever.
Yeah, that's the listing appointment.
There's pros and cons to that.
Very much so.
Oh, yeah.
Very much.
They could put a face.
We would actually win some clients of other agents because they liked us in our presentation so much.
Would you take your buyer as well?
No.
To the appointment? No.
Like our listing appointment we were just at, the guy's like, I like Mooj because his drive, and he likes me because I'm smart and intelligent.
Anything else on inventory?
No. it's
Rates?
just, to your point, you're going to have more options, right? But in some areas, don't be fooled. There's still highest and best happening, right? So, but you're just going to have to pick your battles.
Mortgage rates, kind of like how I touched on. I
Flat.
closed a doctor's loan last week at 4.99. So we're starting to see a lot of fives. The projection for 2026 is 5.9. Again, does with what's happening right now around the world impact that? Probably. We don't know how that's going to play out, but this is the projection. Regardless, we've learned, you know, in any one of these times, there's no valid reason there why a buyer won't buy and own real estate when the interest rate on rent is 100%. You know, so there's no valid reason for them not to buy and to own. There are valid reasons, and we'll kind of talk about it in some slides coming up, why a seller who's in a 3 won't want to sell and go buy something and get into a 5.5 or a 6. You can understand that. But for a buyer who doesn't own a home, to own a home instead of renting at 100% interest and they pay 7%, it makes 0 sense. So we've already all learned and established that because we just dealt with it for the past 3 years.
The one thing I want you to keep an eye on as the war lingers, confidence goes down, right? So what is the government, what do they do? They reduce interest rates to try to encourage you to keep spending money, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Basic economics. So sit back and see how that handles over the next month.
For sure.
2004 was the invasion of Iraq. 2003, 2004, if you look at all the charts,
Yeah.
real estate was great 2003,
Yeah.
2004.
Right around here.
They want to keep the public distracted, so they're going to make sure that.
Well, confidence, right? It's called confidence.
Hey, if anybody tells you rates are high, you know, what do you tell them? A historical average. Historically, what is the historical interest rate? 7.7.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's say, just since 1990, 6. So we're right there. We're right there. Monthly.
This is a great slide.
Yep. So there's your rate breakdown of all mortgages across the country. Of a 3 to 4% interest rate, who's still holding on? This number keeps shrinking every year. 31.
3 years ago, it was 71%, Mike.
Yep.
71% 3 years ago. Guess what? People are selling.
Right. That's exactly what that alludes to. More sellers are falling out of having that, extremely low rate where they're like, I can't sell. I don't want to give up this rate. That story is kind of going away. You only have now between 3 and 4%, 31.5% of homeowners. Between 4 and 5, 17%. Between 5 and 6, 10%. 6 plus, 21%. Those are probably everybody who bought in the past few years. And 3% or less, only 20%. So you still, so 48.5% of mortgages have rates of 4% or higher.
But don't be fooled, right? They're not all selling, right? A lot of them are refining, and what they're doing is they're pulling money out of their house because there's equity. Why are they pulling money out of their house? Maybe to reinvest, but because cost of living, right? So they can't afford what their lifestyle anymore.
Go ahead.
So that gives them a cushion for a little while, right? And then yes, well, that leads into my favorite slide. But go ahead.
Yeah, the one before, even like interest rate can only hold people so much from life events.
Correct.
If you're relocating and you have to sell the home to buy another home, what rate you're in doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If, God forbid, a death in the family and you have to get rid of that home because now you can't afford it,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. If you're in a situation where you're having a financial hardship due to bankruptcy, you're still selling. So even though it's saying, oh yeah, majority of the US homeowners are in a favorable interest rate, it should not hold us back from looking for those life events that lead to why people buy and sell, regardless of the interest rate. So
Yeah.
who is it affecting mostly? It's people who are saying, I'm very comfortable where I'm at. Would I like to upgrade my home? Sure. Would I like to get a little bit bigger? Yeah, but it's not urgent. It's not really.
Right. Priority.
Nothing has happened yet to force me to do it. So
Yeah.
That's where.
Yeah, I mean, moving into this slide too, this is my favorite slide. This is one I've always watched. Do you guys understand what this slide means? Affordability. Does anybody have an idea what that means?
What percentage of your income is going towards your expenses?
Yep, your monthly salary.
This is for the house itself. So your
Yeah.
your mortgage interest, I believe, including taxes and
Yep,
insurance.
PITI. Yep. So your monthly payment, so the average American back in 2023 got up to 34% of their monthly income for their house payment. So let's just say you have a sick kid or doctors or a furnace or a roof. Guess what happens to that 34%, right? Yeah. So watching it come down gives me a little relief, but at the same time, we'll see how long that stays down.
Right. It still feels expensive
Yeah.
to be a homeowner right
Yeah.
now. Anytime you're above that line, that 27% line, it feels expensive. And those who probably heard me say it before, my guidance to my buyers is always whatever that mortgage payment, interest, taxes, insurance, gas, electricity, everything that you're going to use for the home, it should never cost you more than 1 week's worth of pay, which is 25%, right? So that's the guidance that I always use. You see in here, they have this 20 and 25%. I don't know why they have that there, but I'm sure that's a number that the government likes, I believe, to see it at. And that's a good number. When you're above that number, it feels expensive to be a homeowner, which means either wages are not keeping up, something is going on, prices are climbing too fast and they have to pay more for the home. Something's happening where we need to get it here. And it's starting to, but what's the main reason we can see that drop starting to come from 23 to 25 rates, right? And that's why back here it was too low. So you can expect where we used to get in the 3s and this was in the 7s, the government's going to probably try to want to hold it right in there. You can probably expect this year a lot of 5.5% to 6.5% interest rates.
And what would help also if the rates don't move or nothing changes to it is paying more income. Workers demanding more money. And if that happens, where income actually ends up increasing, then you're going to have affordability become, the affordability issue is going to go down. So
Yeah, I totally agree, Wad. I see that all the time.
Anybody care about Canada? I don't. All right.
I saw they fought with Mexico in baseball.
Oh yeah? Who won?
Mexico and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the best part about it is the Canadians were taking the jerseys and put them onto like their
Oh yeah, like hockey style.
That's hilarious.
on ESPN. It's crazy.
GDP. Do it, Mike.
Gross domestic product. This just is a number that the government likes to see. It's an indicator of how much money is being spent. Like are the American citizens spending their money? Well, do you recall what's the sweet spot the government likes to see this at? I think it's pretty much. I think it's right in around there, 2 to 3%. So what we took away from this when the economist for KW was talking about is all the metrics that the government likes to see in the economy are actually really good right now.
Yeah, 2.2 is fine. This is what they want. They're happy with that.
Right, same as like unemployment. They like it right in that range right there, that 3 to 4% range. If it starts getting into this 5, and obviously like when COVID, everyone was unemployed 8%, they don't like that at all. So this is good.
Yeah, nothing.
And businesses do want to see a little bit of an unemployment because they want the ability to go and actually shop laborers who are not working and be able to press down on the income. If everybody's employed, it's going to be very hard to attract, very hard to attract talent from another company to come to you. You have to pay them premium, which means the cost of goods will go up.
Yeah.
Which in turn, they're going to turn to the consumer and say, it's costing me more to produce it, so I'm going to have to charge you more to buy it.
Yeah.
So remember, if you see a 4% unemployment, don't be alarmed. It's actually healthy, like Mike was saying.
Yeah.
It's healthy to have that type of unemployment because it has a ripple effect on the economy in terms of price affordability.
We just want to keep it under 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Job growth, this is a big one, and one I think we really need to keep our eyes on. 2025 was one of the lowest periods going back, almost to 2001, 2002, where with low job growths. Why would you guys think that could be, and a trend that we probably are going to be headed towards?
Simple answer.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of machinery, a lot of AI.
Yeah, AI is going to be replacing a lot of jobs, and you're going to see it in the slide we got coming up right here.
Yeah, sticking on that point, Mike, I read an article yesterday that Tesla is being built 100% by robots from beginning to end.
So if you're a
put that in
parent,
perspective.
this chart really hits home. Where should you be pushing your children to study and to hopefully to look for employment in? Yeah. So the purple is the 10-year average. Look how far ahead of the average healthcare and social assistance are jumping. And from there, just about everything else is down. Even leisure and hospitality usually grows at a pace of 190,000 a year. There was only 119. Other services, financial activities, still down, but overall up, but down from its normal trend.
The one as us as entrepreneurs and as business owners we like to see is that government one down, because that actually is a favorable. There's less spending, less waste. That means when you go to for example, Secretary of State, and there are 12, 13, 14 people just standing around doing nothing, and there's barely 4 people working, or you go to the clerk's office, or you go downtown to the Wayne County Registrar, and you see how many employees are just there.
Pass the savings off.
Huh?
That's a big pass the savings off.
Well,
Right.
even if they don't pass the savings off, the fact that number is getting addressed, I think is a healthy one. You want to see less of that government jobs and becoming more efficient. And if AI can do it and AI can help with that stuff, we're all for it.
To me, I think what's not pictured, or maybe it is somewhere in this world, is the business of like pipe fitting and electrical electrician trainings. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to see this one start climbing, to be honest with you, because I don't see AI replacing those people.
Construction.
Manual
is
labor.
surprising too, but it's.
Construction is down because people can't afford it.
That construction is down huge.
Yeah.
Normally, the construction adds 180,000 jobs a
Yeah.
year. It actually lost last year.
Scary.
Keep in mind too, policies around immigration, policies around who's doing what work and what labor and what type of work will affect your job growth. So
Yeah.
there are certain jobs that are historically we have relied on immigrants to do, that now in the event construction cannot be picked up and cannot do it, then when are you gonna go to find, there'll be less and less of that job growth in that area, so. It's like a big picture. I would take from it as well is if you're a real estate agent and you're advising your potential investor on buying properties or whatever, hey, listen, anywhere where there's a hospital that's coming up, anywhere where there's medical, anywhere where there's hospitality or leisure or some sort of upcoming is a great area to invest in. We always look at the dollars going in versus the dollars leaving. If you want to tell me is the city, is it doing well or not doing well, I'll say, okay, let's talk about how much money is being invested in the city versus how much money is leaving that city. And that's where your indicator of where wealth and growth is coming up.
I really didn't understand how and what was their meaning of these next two slides. I don't know what, or Ronnie, if you got any takeaway from that.
Yeah, they just said the rich are getting richer, and the gap between those who have and those who don't is widening. So they understand like the people that make more, the people that are making, you see like back in, what is it, 2000? You see the gap between the wealth and the income wasn't as sporadic as
Yep.
it is right now.
The rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
Yep, so.
That's
and
the
then-
message
and part
here.
of the reason, guys, believe it or not, part of the reason is the income has not been keeping up. So
With the cost of living.
with the cost of living, and two, they did mention in that slide is that percentage of those who control a lot of the wealth in America control a lot of the real estate. So real estate remains to be biggest
Huge.
wealth builder, wealth accumulator throughout. So this was a breakdown by ages. Baby boomers and Gen X and millennials, how much in assets they accumulate or what they on average have. So each one of us can kind of take a look at where they're at in terms of debt and in terms of total assets. That's not including, you said, Mike, the home, or is it?
No, it's not.
Not including your home. So if you own your home, excluding the home ownership, this is an idea of where the wealth and income is for the different generations.
Because here's your mortgage debt, right? Inflation.
So this is a great one. You guys remember when we were back just a few years ago, same slide, we were right here. Right?
It's crazy.
And then they raised the rates and it worked. You know, now we got inflation under control. We're right at that sweet spot of 2%. So whatever the rates are today, pretty good bet. They're gonna stay in and around, maybe a little bit lower than that. But it seems like we found like that sweet spot. Again, barring anything major that changes this. Why did this number pump here during COVID?
Inflation?
Who would say, yeah, why did inflation absolutely skyrocket?
Free money.
Nobody had money and then they gave out money.
Exactly. Randy Lola nailed it. Free money. You know, all that unemployment, that PPP loan money, they just dumped it. And then